In today's Whiteboard Leadership moment, we're talking about leadership distinctives that create the culture for leadership. And today's topic is sober-mindedness. And the statement we had in our organization is know who you are and who you're not, and do what's best for the whole. The challenge for a lot of us is that we don't know what gifts and abilities God's given us, or we're not sober-minded about the gifts that we have. For others, we're very sober-minded about it, but we're not humble about it. And it's a really challenging place to be. Know who you are, who you're not, do what's best for the whole. We're all trying to take the hill and take the hill together. That's another distinctive we talked about. But what we're trying to do is actually put people in the right places so that the synergy, the ability to actually perform the task becomes easier because you're working in your gifts, I'm working in my gifts. It means deferring to one another and recognizing that others will always be better than you at something in the ministry. And you've got to make sure that you're in your right place and that person's in the right place, and be sober-minded about that. What we have here is there's different people on your team that have different knowledge of who they are, and they have different sharing of who they are. The person who's very high in sharing but low in knowledge is that singer on the worship team that can't actually sing. They love to share their gift and ability, but they don't realize that they're really not that good. They are a prison singer, always behind a few bars, never have the right key. Those are immature, and what you have to challenge them to do is to grow up. Someone has to have the conversation with them and say, listen, that's not your best gift. You're not a 10 at that. That's not where you're going to be long term. And have the hard conversation with that person who talks a lot but really doesn't understand who they are. And then these people over here who know who they are, but they just don't use it. They just don't invest in the kingdom of God with it. And so for them, they're insecure. They're not sure that God can use them. They're the Gideons of the church, where who am I and why would God use me? And you have to challenge them and to open up, to talk about and to try different things that they might have tried before, to take the risk to be a person full of faith and no longer a person of fear, and move forward and sharing the gifts and abilities that they have. You've got this person down here who's low in sharing, but they're also low in knowing, and for that person, they need to discover their gifts. They're just uninformed. They don't realize what they can and can't do. And a lot of churches will use gift analysis. And people on staffs and things like that will experiment. Will try things with them, and we want them just to step up, to trust God for a new level, to see what happens, and figure out who they are and how they fit, and just be comfortable with how God designed them. Walk them through passages like Romans chapter 12 or Ephesians chapter 4, other places that talk about the gifts, and just help them to discover who God made them to be. And so you've got all these different things, but you've got these people over here who know what they're great at, and they're willing to share it. And for those people, I'm just going to tell you, just be authentic. Just be yourself. If you just show up and just continue to do what you do, knowing who you are and who you're not, doing what's best for the team, that's going to really help you. Now here's the defining question of whether you believe this value, and it's this. Is your first question when something comes up, when an opportunity comes up, when you're challenged to take a step up or challenged to take a step back, is your question this: am I willing to do what's best for the team? Am I willing to do what's best for the whole? What's the best thing for the church? What's the best thing for the kingdom of God? And are you willing to surrender your will to God's will? Are you willing to say, okay, I'm not the best person for this? I remember several times in my church, staff came up to me after a season, and we always did evaluation. People worked really hard on being sober-minded, humble, and yet confident. And one came up to me and said, listen, I was the right person to lead this congregation when we had 50 small groups, but now we have 150 small groups. And I don't think I'm the guy to bring it to 500, and I need you to hire someone over me. That's a very, very sober-minded thing to say. I had a children's ministry person who grew the children's ministry from a very small number to a very large number. But she came to me and she said, I'm not the right person for the future. You need to hire someone over me. Know who you are and who you're not, and do what's best for the team. This has been a Converge Whiteboard Leadership Moment. To learn more about Converge or to join us, check out converge.org.